between those two holes, right? That's a couple of meters. Maybe that's not a single bed, but that's a pretty resistant layer that you can follow up. And as it starts to get into that fold pattern, it just doesn't want to fold, right? I mean, this is brittle deformation. These rocks don't want to be doing this. So you get a lot of local variation. You get really pointed folding up here. You get less pointed folding over toward that wall. You get the S shape well defined here. Down there it's a much broader S shape, and in fact if you go over to that wall, you're hard pressed to find the bottom curve of the S at all. It's still probably below us, but that stuff just, it doesn't want to do what it's doing. So there were some pretty serious stresses and driving forces involved in causing these rocks to do this. So we got a couple of other things to think about here. If you were going to mark a symbol on your map at this location, what do? Okay, because you've got that strike going that way, you've got that strike going that way. Okay, what would you put on your map? You could put that what's called a lineation measurement, or which would basic for the fold axis, which would be an arrow pointing in the down plunge direction of the fold. But even that doesn't tell the whole story, because the fold is like this, yes? Yeah. Okay. So what do you think we should do here? What should you put on your map?
Can you put a fold and just mark each side as like a certain direction?
You could do that, and especially if you had a really focused, small-scale map, you could probably put a lot of that on there. The problem is, on those big things I gave you, this quarry is, maybe 2 millimeters on the map. So I'll tell you what my solution is to this, how I would treat this. I would do two things here. First of all, I would decide which strike and dip measurement is the most characteristic of this location. So, which one do you think? That one or that one? What's most characteristic of this location? That one. Why? But remember, if you only put one strike and dip, just by putting one symbol on, you are omitting part of the story, okay? So which part of the story should we omit? In other words, which orientation do you think is the dominant limb?
I'd say that one, because the fold is kind of an anomaly. Like, most of the bedding would have been this way until the fold happened.
Why do you say most of the bedding's that way instead of most of the bedding being that way?
Because that's where the fold happened, would have adjusted what the bedding was like beforehand. I don't know, that's just how I was choosing.
I think your gut instincts are right, but I don't like your logic too much. Look at that fold right up there. Okay. Remember when we talked about long and short limbs? Which are the long limbs?
The ones that go this way.
The ones that go what way? Put your hand up. Which limbs are the longest limbs? Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
Big long thing going down there, little hiccup going back to the right, and then as far as we can tell, it goes back down to the left into the ground. You understand what I'm getting at? Yeah. Big long, then just a little hiccup, and then big long again.
Yeah.
Now over there, we can't see how long the hiccup is, so you might be, if you're looking at that, you might think, well, I don't really know, but this side tells us which is the most important. So, now, which one would you choose to put on your map? That one. Okay, I think that is the dominant
side orientation
with a little fold. I think this is a parasitic fold. It's a big parasitic fold, but I think it's a parasitic S fold, potentially on the larger Massanutten anticlinal structure, although that's a bit of freewheeling arm waving. BS, whatever you want to call it. If it were me, I would put that strike and dip, but in my notes, I would have a sketch of what's here because I know that when I turn in my cross section through this area, Whitmire is going to ding me if I don't show this fold. Okay? How are you all feeling about evaluating this sort of thing?
I feel like we haven't done it in the field very much. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of fuzzy with it.
Yeah, right. We haven't done it in the field, right? This is a little bit different. There are some places we just stop and we collect data, right? But this actually tells us a lot. There's a lot of information in this stop. And it's warm. This is all good.
Yeah.
One other thing that we ought to look at here is look over at that wall. We're going to have to walk over.